Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sah Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Ramo Rajamanis Sada Vijayate Ramam Ramesham Bhaje Ramena Bihata Nishacharachamu Ramaya Tasmai Namaha. Ramannasti Parayanam Parataram Ramasya Dasosmyaham. Rame Chittalaya Sada Bhavatu Me Bho Rama Mamuddhara. Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram. Om Apyayantu Mamangani Vak Pranaschakshushrotramatho Balamindriyani Cha Sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Ma Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranamastvanirakaranam me astu Tadatmani nirateya upanishatsu dharmaha te mayi santu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om everyone. Can you all see my slides well? Can you all see? Okay, perfect. We have covered 13 sections so far. If somebody is joining today and they say, can you give a bird's eye view of what all things we covered so far? Okay, so we'll do that in the beginning. Even if you attended from the first day, it is always helpful to do a Simhavalokanam. Simhavalokanam means when a lion moves forward, we say it stops at some point and then scans everything. Okay, its neck and mouth, it is said, is very flexible. Simha. It is also called Panchanana, means whose mouth can open very wide. So that is what we have to keep doing whenever we study any text. After we reach around like halfway, 3/4 of the text, go back from the beginning and just see what are the key ideas that we studied. This is a style of teaching and studying also where the idea, whatever topics you have studied, becomes very well settled in our mind, right? Because Upanishad Rishi has a sequence in which he is teaching, so that we should appreciate. All right. Now Chandogya chapter 6 at a glance. So, each part was a section. So there are 16 sections. We have seen 13 of them so far. So first section was the dialogue between Uddalaka Muni and Shvetaketu. Our same Shvetaketu, who was so stabdaha, anuchanamani, arrogant. Later on, he completely changes. But in this section, the main topic was Uddalaka Muni puts a question to him, saying that, have you asked or did you stay only at effect level, or did you ask your teacher about that cause? About that absolute truth, knowing which everything becomes known. One class we spent just on that section. But if you want the summary of that, knowing one, we know everything. Know one to know all. Second was, Sadeva Somya Idamagra Asit. Shvetaketu says, oh teacher, you only teach me. What is that truth? He says that truth is called as Sat. That alone was in the beginning of this creation. Having indicated the nature of Sat, the third section went on to elaborate the creation process by itself. How this creation becomes many, what are the elements that come about, that entire process was described. You remember that Trivrut Karanam, 3 elements came, from that they combined, all of those was in this section. But we should remember, purpose is not to explain creation, purpose is to show that this creation has emerged from Sat. So whenever you see creation, turn attention to that substratum. We see pot, right, so many times, but not every time our attention goes to clay. Same thing over here also. We see creation, but we should put forth little effort to shift attention to substratum Sat. Now the student asked, what are the methods by which I can turn attention to Sat? So step by step method was given, that from name and form come to elements first. Fire, water, earth element. From those 3 elements, go to Sat. Different examples were taken, moon, thunder, fire, sun, all examples were taken, but we can take any example that we want. Simple mapping was done with colors only. No too much complication. He said wherever there is red color, it has come from fire. Whitish color has come from water. The black or dark color has come from Annam, earth. Then Shvetaketu started asking questions. He said, tell me, how is this, the 3 elements, how are they located in this physical body? So to explain that point, this analogy was given, that food that we eat separates into 3 parts. What happens to the gross, in between, and the subtlest part. So like that, different ways it was explained, but the main point was mind is product of food that we eat. Mind is matter. Don't take yourself to be something that you are not. Okay. Then Shvetaketu asked, how does this subtle portion separate out? So then Uddalaka Muni gave example of yogurt churning. He said how that ghee separates out. In the same way, here also, subtle part of food that separates out to become the mind. Okay, this was the essence of 6th section. 7th section, Shvetaketu had another doubt. He said, I don't fully understand how is this mind a modification of food. So then that fasting experiment was done. He said, if you don't eat, you don't remember. If you start eating, all the abilities of the mind come back. So with this correlation, the main point which was established was mind is product of food. Emotion should be good, all those parts we saw. But another side of that is, if I don't take that food to be myself, why do I take that mind to be myself? Right? Food or but when it becomes the mind, I start saying, oh, this is me. Right? So that is another way to look at it. 8th section was Mahavakya. So Sat is a substratum of creation, and Sat also is a substratum of this individual. Then came Mahavakya, which said, Tat Sat, that Sat which is a substratum of this creation, Shvetaketu, that Sat you are. Tat Sat, Tomasi. Different examples were given. Deep sleep example was there, hunger, thirst. All of that was to turn attention to Sat. Okay, these are only highlights. I'm not elaborating. We have already seen elaboration. It should just bring back those ideas. Don't have to write everything again. You just have to appreciate the flow of thoughts. 9th section came where Shvetaketu asked a question. Having gone into Sat, why don't we know about it? Why don't we know that we are one with Sat in deep sleep? Then Uddalaka Muni gave example of honeybee. He said just like the nectar when it merges into the honey does not know anything, does not know its individuality, does not know where it came from, where it is there right now. He says when this individuality of Jiva is dropped, we don't know anything. Okay, in Sat, we drop this individuality. That is why we don't even know anything. 10th section was another question. Having come out of Sat, why don't we know anything? So, river example was given to show that this river has come from water, becomes the cloud, goes on the mountain, and then goes back into that same water. I mean, the ocean. Come from ocean, goes back to ocean. But if you ask that river, where have you come from? It says, I came from the mountain. This is a reminder for us to go back to the absolute cause. Because we are very used to going to the immediate cause. It says, train your mind to keep thinking in that way so that we reach the absolute cause. Okay, so this was the 10th section. 11th section, Shvetaketu asked, wave merges into ocean and gets destroyed. Why is it that Jiva merges into Sat and does not get destroyed? So then example was given of that tree. That one by one, the Jiva withdraws from that physical entity of a tree and that portion dries out. When it fully withdraws, he says only the physical form is left behind. Jiva continues. Jiva is eternal. It is only a misunderstanding that we have had for ourselves. Jiva was never born. Jiva is anadi. Since when it is, since when it is continuing, he says, don't inquire into when it started. It all started because of ignorance. I thought of myself to be a finite being. That is when this jivatva has been going on, and ignorance is beginningless only. You cannot pinpoint a time where you say, this is when I started being ignorant. So because ignorance is beginningless, jivatva or jiva is also beginningless. But it should come to an end. Through Vedanta, with this knowledge that I am not a jiva, I am that Sat. Okay, this is 11th section. 12th one was, Shvetaketu asked, how can a gross effect come from a subtle cause? This creation looks so gross, it's so tangible, and Atma is something, or Sat is something which is not even perceived by our sense organs. So to remove that doubt, banyan tree example was given. From that seed where nothing is there, this entire banyan tree, huge banyan tree can come. In the same way, this entire creation can emerge out of that subtlest Sat Vastu. This point we had seen before that we get many questions on the spiritual path, right? And most of the questions are not about Sat. You see Shvetaketu's question, they are about Jiva, they are about deep sleep, so many other things. And it is very okay to get those questions. We have to resolve them, but after resolving, go back to the main teaching. Not go back anywhere else or say that I want to do something else, what I was doing before. He says, no. After you resolve those doubts, go back to the same Mahavakya, Tat Tvam Asi. Now comes the 13th section, the last section that we saw yesterday. Shvetaketu says, if everything is Sat, why is it that I'm not seeing it? So then Uddalaka Muni says, everything has a specific means of knowledge. Use the right means of knowledge to know Sat. Don't search with your physical eyes. It will never become Drishya. Right? Don't try to meet Sat in that way, see Sat in that way. Why is that? Because you are Sat, Shvetaketu. What you are, you want to see it as something different from you. Like our own eyes cannot see their eyes, right? What we saw in Keno Upanishad, Swatmani Kriya Abhavat. A thing cannot know itself in that way. So, Sat should not be looked for as an object, but understand you are that Sat through Vedanta Pramana. Remove those erroneous things which I have included in myself. Okay, this was a recap of the last 6 days. Now comes the next section where Shvetaketu again asks a question. He says, Teacher, you just told me that I should use the right means to know Sat. What is the right means? Can you tell me precisely what is the right means by which I will come to know this truth? Now comes a very nice story. Okay. So, mantra you will have to read on your own. I will just go to the story part. So, this is the story of a man from Gandhara. You know where Gandhara is? In modern day Afghanistan. And this was Shakuni's kingdom. One of the name of Shakuni is Gandhara Naresh. So from that time, he has been, troubling people, and all these things has been going on in that place from that time. It is said in Upanishad, Gandhara, it has come. So this story is of a man who gets kidnapped in Gandhara, from Gandhara. And those thieves, they blindfold him and bring him to a very thick forest. But after they bring him there, they realize this person doesn't have anything. They say we have to feed him 3 times and take care of him. So they just leave him in that forest and go away, the thieves. Now this man who is blindfolded, he's crying for help. He cries in the east direction, west direction, north, south, all directions, he is crying out loud. One person, very compassionate, he comes by and he just opens his blindfold. Not only opens it, but also tells him how to get back to Gandhara. He gives him directions and he says, you will meet these milestones on your way. Remember these milestones. If these you meet, that means you are in the right direction. Now this person who was blindfolded, he remembers all the directions and keeps on asking. As he goes to the next village, he asks over there, make sure that the landmark is correct, and then goes ahead and so on, and finally gets back to Gandhara. Now it requires humility, to ask. Because many a times, if somebody tells us to ask direction, right, in particular, if we are going somewhere, he says asking will make sure that we don't get lost. Making sure that the right milestone is there, and then we are able to reach the goal. And also, the one who is, asking this direction, he has to be little intelligent. Means every time, if he takes directions literally, he will always be in trouble. Like, in India, we write address, right? And then we say opposite this temple. The opposite temple is never opposite. It could be diagonally opposite. It could be, 2 streets away. So you cannot literally go ahead and say, oh, this is right opposite, but I don't see anything there. Swami Akhandananji, when he used to explain this portion, right, he would say, we had a boy in our village. They told him, go straight, you will, reach your village. And he was such a sincere follower of that instruction. If a well came in between, he would get down in the well and get up, literally to the point. Now, why we are discussing this? Because everything will be mapped to the next part. So pay attention to all these indicators. So Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji writes an elaborate bhashya on this. He said, this is not the story of that person from Gandhara. This is our story. He said, our story, what are the characters? You see, the thieves who are there, the thieves are the karmas that we have done. Papa karma and punya karma. Both balance of that has made us have this physical body. And this forest is nothing but the forest of this body. And then he goes on to describe, what is this forest of this body? He says, so many things are inside, so many things. We are as though trapped in this physical body. More elaboration if you want, you have to read that bhashya. I won't cover that over here. Then he says, this man is a mumukshu, one who got blindfolded. He says he got blindfolded by ignorance. And a stage has come in his life where that ignorance becomes unbearable. Means, who am I? That questions bothers him so much that he starts seeking for help. Help means what? Wherever satsang is available, he will go and sit there. Left, right, he is shouting for help. He says when he starts crying out in that way, it is the law of this cosmos that he will get the right guidance. In all Puranas we have seen, whenever somebody asked for this teaching, that teaching came to them. Dhruva asked, Naradji came walking. He didn't, ask for some guidance. He just had that calling that I should do sadhana. Dhruva, that 5-year-old boy, he had that calling. He says, Bhagwan says, I will send guidance to him. Our Vidurji, when he went on pilgrimage, he had a lot of questions in his mind. Bhagwan says, I will send him to Uddhavji. Uddhavji, you send him to Maitreya Rishi. He will answer all questions. So he says, that person who is having that urge, having that calling inside, that person is a mumukshu. He is still in that forest, but now something wonderful will happen. After a lot of punya karmas that he has done in the past, he gets a teacher in his life who will point him to Shastra. Acharyavan Purusho Veda. And the teacher will give him Upadesha of Mahavakya. Just hearing this Upadesha is not sufficient. Lot of sadhanas have to be done. We have to prepare ourselves to abide in that knowledge. So different milestones he will give. Just like that person gave milestones, this teacher will give different milestones. Where will I find these milestones? He says, read Sadhana Panchakam. 40 milestones are given, starting from Vedo Nityam Adhiyatam Taduditam Karmaswanushthiyatam. What is the last milestone? Atha Parabrahmane Sthiyatam. Means abide in that Brahman which is your own nature. So like this, teacher will give that Upadesha and he will go away. Journey has to be walked by that student only. Spiritual life is a very lonely path. Guruji says that. Lonely part, not in the worldly sense. We are still with people, everything is there. But nobody else can do any sadhana for us. An example he gives is Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji in Vivek Chudamani. If we are hungry, only we have to eat. Somebody else eating will not take away my hunger. If I am carrying a bag and I am tired of carrying, somebody can carry it for me. But he says eating is not like that. If you are hungry, you have to eat, and only then your hunger is satisfied. So on the spiritual path also, all instructions will be given. We are not lacking in knowledge of sadhana. Whoever has been doing Vedanta Shravanam, if you are very new to Vedanta, then yes, I will not know what is japa, what is pujanam, what is dhyanam. But a stage comes where we know all sadhanas, we have heard sufficient Vedanta. So there it is said, put forth more effort to deepen that sadhana. Whatever little we are doing, one round of japa or just doing some dhyanam, says that sadhana we alone will have to do. Why? Because that milestone, we have to keep checking and we have to reach that goal. Now, Pandito Medhavi, this is a very important mantra. Means he is the one, that student is the one, just like that other person remembered the instructions, right? To go back to his village. This person remembers the teaching. Panditaha means that. He has heard very well and he has assimilated that essence of the teaching. So whenever he needs it, that knowledge is available to him to come out of that situation. Medhavi means the one who can apply it in the right way. Just like that person should not get in the well and get up, right? So over here also, when we say everything is Brahma, the student should not get confused. But if everything is Brahma, why should I do any work? We say, no, apply this teaching in the right way, become Medhavi. Vedanta has addressed our life at different levels. So according to that level, you see the solution and understand how all of it ties back to abidance in our nature as Sat. For Vyavahara, different solutions are given. Right? All the values that are spoken in Bhagavad Gita, he says that will make our Vyavahara very beautiful, but also take us towards that Sat. Okay? And over here, there is another phrase, right? Acharyavan Purusho Veda. Says, who is this Acharyavan? Says Acharyavan is the one who has this reverence in this heart that I am ready to listen to the teaching of Shastra. Guru and Shastra always go together, but this thought should come from the student. Then only he is called as Acharyavan. Right? Like everybody who is in proximity of money is not called as Dhanavan. Right? The cashier in the bank every day might be counting so many notes. But that person is not called Dhanavan. In the same way, somebody who is in proximity of Acharya and Shastra is not called as Acharyavan. Some reverence is there in their heart that I am ready to change my previous understanding based on whatever Shastra is telling me now. I'm just highlighting the main points. The Bhashya on this is very beautiful, but this is the main essence. Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji says, who is Acharyavan? This Acharyavan is the one who has reverence in their heart and is willing to change their thinking according to Shastra. Okay, so this was the story. What is the main question Shvetaketu asked? What is the means? If you said Sat is not seen through physical eyes, then how will I know it? He says you will know it through Mahavakya, Upanishad Pramana. Listen to it carefully, do your sadhanas, walk that path, find the right milestones and reach your goal. Now Shvetaketu has another question. He says, oh teacher, can you explain how this realized master drops his physical body and becomes one with Sat? Now this question is tying to the previous section, because in the last portion of the mantra, we didn't go into details. What that mantra said was, once this person has this knowledge, it's only a matter of time that this physical body is expressing, but after that, there is no rebirth. Videha Mukti means no more taking up a physical body. And Jivan Mukti, right now when he is living, he is very happy and abiding in that absolute bliss. So because teacher said about Videha Mukti, right? Shwetaketu has a question where he says, can you please explain how does a realized person drop his physical body? Now, this is a very interesting answer. Okay, Videha Mukti of realized one. Mantra, your homework. Does this slide seem familiar before? It had come earlier, right? So the same sequence, Uddalaka Muni tells Shwetaketu now. He says, Shwetaketu, when the time has come of dropping a physical body, the speech of this jnani merges into the mind. Mind merges into prana, prana merges into fire element, and this fire element merges into sat. Shwetaketu wonders, this is a deja vu moment for me. Previously also this section came, but it came for jiva. You know, how do we all just drop this physical body in general? You see, that thing was explained before. And now I asked, how does a realized one drop this physical body? Same sequence you explained. So teacher, it looks like there is no difference between dropping a physical body. That is the point, Shwetaketu. As far as dropping of physical body is concerned, there is no difference between the sequence of a ignorant and the sequence of the realized one. Only difference is the ignorant one comes back, the realized one does not come back. Okay, that is the essence of this section. He says it is not the phenomenon of dropping this body is the same. But what is important is with what knowledge are we dropping this body? Having a physical body is the same for jnani also and ajnani also. But the difference is with what knowledge are they living in this physical body? So he says, difference that is going to come is in this knowledge. Difference is not going to be in the physical things, which are given to us by creation. So don't expect that jnani to depart in a very different way. Some light will come, something else will happen. He says nothing of that sort. Their dropping is also the same as any other jiva. Now Shwetaketu holds on to the last part. He says, having merged with Sat, ignorant is reborn, while the realized is not. So teacher, can you tell me why it is so? If phenomenon of death is same for ignorant also and the realized also, why is it that ignorant is reborn and the realized one is not reborn? Okay, this is his question now. Mantra, up to you. This is a story of a person who is accused of being a thief and is brought in the court. Okay. So what the guards over there do is they tie both of his hands and they bring him to the court. And the judge asks them, why have you brought him? He says, we saw him taking money. The judge says, well, merely taking money is not any fault, right? That doesn't make him a thief just because he has taken money. Why do you say, he's a thief? They say he has taken money that does not belong to him. That is why we have brought him in front of you. And this is in Bhashya, I'm just translating. So the judge says, let us do a lie detection test. Okay, they had a machine. In olden days, it was a very different method they have shown over there. In Upanishad, it is said there was a hot parshu, hot iron rod, which would be heated up. The person who has spoken the truth will hold it, but will not get burnt by it. Person who has spoken untruth, he will hold it and get burnt by it. This was a lie detection test which they had in those times. If we directly give that example, we might not relate with it. So this is the modern day example of what that was. Now, if that person spoke the truth, and his result was that he has spoken the truth, they will release him. But not only release him, they will reward him also. They will say, you had to go through a lot of things. That is why you are having this additional reward. In those days, that was the method. Now remember all these small portions of the story. It will connect back with the main thing we want to explain. And let us say he spoke a lie. That person spoke a lie and he had actually stolen something. He will be punished and he'll be penalized also. Because he was asked, did you steal? He said, no, I did not steal. And then he went through this test and then he got that result. He says, you'll get two things. One, you'll be punished for stealing. Second is you'll be penalized for speaking untruth. Okay? Now you see the main part. He says, this is not that thief story. This is a story of ignorant person and a realized person. Both of them have a physical body. Okay? But merely having a physical body does not mean they are bound. Okay? Just like merely taking money doesn't mean he's a thief. Merely having a physical body does not mean the realized person is bound. And dropping of this physical body is the same for ignorant, is the same for realized. That is symbolic of this lie detection test. The innocent person and the thief, both of them had to go through that test. But result was different for both of them. In the same way, for ignorant also and for realized also, dropping of physical body is the same. But one holds on to the truth. So the one who holds on to the truth has Videha Mukti and Jivan Mukti. Like that person is released and is rewarded. He says there is Videha Mukti, there is no more taking of more physical body. While they are in this physical body, they have Jivan Mukti. Enjoying, reveling in that absolute bliss. What happens if we hold on to ignorance, the lie part? Dropping of physical body is same, but that ajnani, ignorant person is reborn again. And while they are in this physical body, they are scorched by the heat of samsara. Okay. Now this is Uddalaka Muni's way of explaining to Shetaketu. Everything else will be the same. Jnani also has a mind. Jnani also has a physical body. Jnani also will drop the physical body in the same way as an ignorant person. What made the difference is knowledge. Okay. So the essence of this is, when we live in this world, we should touch this world only with this clear knowledge. If we don't, then we get burnt by it. That Tapta Parashu, that burning example makes little more sense. This lie detector is very innocent. It doesn't do any harm. So many emotions we go through, so many places we get disappointed, so many ups and downs come in life. So all of that will get reduced, all of that will get minimized if we hold on to that truth. Whatever we discussed earlier, you should keep remembering, because every time you won't be able to recap, but all of the dots will connect. One part of our journey is nirmana. Nirmana means creating a strong inner personality. All ups and downs, taking care of them on the strength of devotion to Bhagavan. You remember those sadhanas we had discussed? Choose Bhagavan, chant his name, see his form. All of that is one portion. Bhagavan says, if you have done that well, I will effortlessly lead you to the next one. That is his promise. What is the next part? Pramana. Means coming and studying Upanishad, having reverence in Upanishad, putting forth effort to understand meaning of Upanishad. That is why on the first day I said, if all of us are here, it is not random. Studying Chandogya Upanishad, and if we have that reverence in our heart, I want to abide in my nature as Sat, says Bhagwan's grace is in plenty upon all of us. And more we increase that devotion, we will appreciate His grace. It's only a matter of appreciating. His grace is already there. More we appreciate, we start feeling that it is growing more and more. Okay, so now our Shvetaketu, who started as this arrogant student, he comes back and says, teacher, I understood. Vijajnyau iti, no more questions. You have removed all my doubts. Now the teacher is very happy. He says, abide in your true nature as Sat and know that you are ever free. Not that before I was born, bound, and now, after knowing I am Sat, I am liberated. He says, you are Sat even when you are bound. Now it is only that you have removed other erroneous notions. So go back and abide in this truth. Okay. So invoke Bhagwan's grace. With his grace only, we could study this Upanishad. And I also very fondly remember our Swamiji, Puja Swami Bodhatmananji, who taught this very elaborately. This entire Upanishad we studied in almost 30 sessions and with Bhashya and everything. And he would encourage us to present the same teaching in a very different way. Like all this slide and everything, Swamiji encouraged us during the course. After every text, he would assign brahmacharis to go and present the same text, entire set of verses, set of Upanishad in this format. That way your mananam also happens. You are condensing that whole big text into a small portion. Right? So it was very nice to reflect on all this Upanishad, and preparation is when I enjoyed thoroughly. My sincere gratitude to all our sevaks, worked very hard for a long time, and this was a very new venture, right? Between Chinmaya Mission San Jose and Orlando, all of them came together and worked. If I take names, I'm very sure I'll miss many people. It's a big team, AV team, events, and all the activities. All of them put forth a lot of effort, invoke Bhagwan's grace on each of them. Also, one thing I really liked in this retreat was all the in-between things were done, all the other activities which were done, bhajans which were sang. I was wondering whether they planned and came. Every singer who sang, what I was going to speak, that topic would be there in their bhajan. So it was also very good. And I was very happy to see all of you in person. So this online format has worked well for us for a long time now. But I think now it is time that we should slowly start attending in person also. We have a big space and all care will be taken for making sure all of us are safe. But my request to all of you is, those who are in San Jose, of course, try to attend at least one class in person in a week. Other classes you attend online, it is okay. But look at your schedule and try to pick at least one class that you can come in person, because we need that someone there. When you are studying some kind of text, studying Upanishad, see, online is second best option. If you can't attend all days, I understand that, because you are traveling. Even to come here is a long distance for those of you who stay around. But at least if you can come once a week, that way we can also be in touch. If you have any questions, we can have satsang. Right? That is how we will do it. So now our plan will be, we'll do the concluding portion of the retreat now. After that, we'll take a group picture. So please stay back to turn your videos on so that we all can come in that. After the concluding ceremony is done, and after that group picture, I will stay back. Okay, so if any questions are there, that we can discuss. Okay, first is concluding ceremony. There are announcements, group picture, and then is Q&A. Also, so nice to see all of you in on your videos with your videos on. Hari Om everyone. If you come to San Jose, those of you who are in Florida and Orlando, do stop by. Okay. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.